It is true that I have sent 6 bullets through the head of my best friend, and yet I hope to show by this statement that I am not his murderer. At first I shall be called a madman, madder than the man I shot in his cell at the Arkham Sanitarium. Later some of my readers will weigh each statement, correlate it with known facts, and ask themselves how I could have believed otherwise than I did after facing the evidence of that horror, that thing on the doorstep. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Carr-Quest of H.P. Lovecraft. And today, we will be checking out the thing on the doorstep. The thing on the doorstep. I think we may have come across a story that I don't think I'm really that big on. It's not a terrible story. It's not a bad story. A lot of what Lovecraft's best at is in here. The atmosphere, the escalation is still here. But I don't know. I don't know. I'll try talking about it and maybe try to find out my feelings on it. It's not like Silver Key, where even though I said in the episode, in that episode, that by the next one I'd figure it out, I still don't know how to figure it out, my thoughts on Silver Key. Well, let's just talk about it. So it's about this guy named Dan. I forget his last name. And as you can tell from that really intense opening paragraph, it sort of tells the story of him and this guy named Edward Pickman Derby, and how he meets this young woman named Asenath, and how, typical of Lovecraft, things go bad in various madness-inducing ways. I'll be honest, there is a word that Lovecraft uses in this to describe Edward at a certain point that threw me off a bit, and I think that may have been one of the things that kind of sort of made me to finish the rest of the story. It's a word that is not okay to say anymore. Let's just put it that way. And it's still I think worth a read. I just don't think that it's definitely not in that Dunwich horror, color out of space, music Eric Zahn kind of place, you know. There's a lot of references to Innsmouth in this story, and I won't spoil the next episode, but at least not right now, but reading those references, it just made me want to read the next story. Honestly, like, I don't know if Lovecraft wrote the next story in this collection before or after he wrote this one, the thing on the doorstep, but I think at a certain point I just said out loud, this just makes me want to read that story more than anything. And I think part of it also, just something reads different about this one. I'm not sure if I made reference of it in the last episode. I don't think I did. But in Honor of the Dark, one of the things that really kind of intrigued me about it, not only as a Lovecraft story, but as the last Lovecraft story, was that Honor of the Dark kind of seemed, it was almost kind of like reading a summary of a journal of a character. So it was like, oh, this character did this, and he did this, and he talked a lot about this, and he made reference to a lot of this, and later entries in his diary, kind of like that. here, I don't know, just something feels different, but not in the same way Haunter of the Dark was. I can't put my finger on it either. Something feels kind of more cynical, I guess, than Lovecraft typically is, which is odd because Lovecraft stories are typically cynical, dark, kind of nihilistic, cosmic, WTF and everything, but just something just kind of felt just kind of cynical about the whole thing. Just there was just this air of cynicism about the story that I don't really feel from Lovecraft's other work. You know what I mean? There are good ideas in this. As far as I know, I won't spoil it, although I think there's a concept dealt with in this story that's dealt with in another one that I feel that's in this collection, I think, that I feel might be dealt with better than it is here. And I will say, even though I'm not a big fan of this story, I think the ending of it is very effective. There's one point in the story involving a phone call that I think was mostly through Ian Gordon over at Horror Babble's reading of it. That kind of gave me, you know those videos that are like top 5 911 calls or like top whatever, like the scariest 911 calls? It kind of gave me vibes like that, and it is really creepy. And the ending is definitely creepy. It's not as creepy as like what was it was Whisperer in Darkness, I think it was, or like where literally I was kind of just like this at the end, like this. I think if you go back to like part 2, I think you see that. But yeah, the ideas are decent. I just feel like in a excuse me, in a later story, Lovecraft deals with them better. Yeah, I don't know. I can see why it's kind of in the best of H.P. Lovecraft, like, because it's still Lovecraft's atmosphere and his escalation and his sort of gothic. This is kind of gothic, but it's not like how Haunter of the Dark was. I don't know. This story just, I don't know, it didn't really do much for me. It's not a terrible story, though. I think it is worth reading. But it's nowhere near like the S tier Lovecraft, or even A tier Lovecraft, really. Yeah, sorry that this episode's kind of a bit of a bummer, but just I don't know. I think it's probably like a long week and personal things going on. I don't know. But if I were to, oh yeah, Lovecraft connections. This one references Arkham, Kingsport, Innsmouth extensively rather. Miskatonic University, and I forget if there's another one. There might have been, I'm not sure. There's also consistent references to a deity whose name makes me very uncomfortable to say out loud. But one of the nicknames for it is the goat with 1,000 young. And actually, you can look up that one. I'm not, look up goat with 1,000 young. You'll see why it kind of makes me uncomfortable to say it out loud. But there actually is a good, sentence in this that I thought was pretty interesting. There are horrors beyond life's edge that we do not suspect, and once in a while, man's evil prying calls them just within our range. I thought that was actually really well written, just kind of that isolated sentence. But, otherwise, yeah. If I were ranking this on a scale of again, S tier to F tier, this is nowhere near a D to F. Low B, maybe C, probably. I don't know, but C feels a little bit too low. I'm not sure, maybe low B, I don't know. But yeah, so this was a thing on the doorstep. And, next time on our Carr-Quest of H.P. Lovecraft, we will be taking a look at another one of Lovecraft's most well-known tales, The Shadow over Innsmouth. So, We will be traveling to Innsmouth next week. So until then, this has been the Carr-Quest to H.P. Lovecraft. I have been your host, Andrew Carr, and until then, see you next time.